Welcome to Talking Tuesdays. I am your host, Fancy Quant, also known as Dimitri here. This is a completely new segment we're going to be doing. So let me just introduce everything that's going to be going on with this. Talking Tuesdays is going to be something I don't do regularly. Okay. Talking Tuesdays is going to be more or less me just getting on camera, having a few topics. So I have a few topics on the sheet of paper, and me just going through discussions, me just giving you my perspective. It's kind of a play on like a podcast because I know a lot of people have been asking, Dimitri, it'd be awesome if you did a podcast. I really want something to listen to during work, but something that's more interesting, something that's more finance related, something like that. So I've been thinking about that. I'm like, podcast is a lot of work. I'd have to run a podcast on, another platform. Just takes more time. It's more effort. So Talking Tuesdays is going to be my attempt to talk to you guys kind of like a podcast. But the goal of these is not to be short and concise. So my normal videos on Sundays that come out at noon, they're supposed to be short and concise. And I know I ramble a lot, right? That's just who I am. I give you guys lots of details, maybe too much. But the thing with Talking Tuesdays is I want to do something that's more like I'm sitting down with you and I have like, for example, a coffee in front of me and we're just having a conversation. Uh, these are going to be kind of similar. So for those of you that know who Eli, the computer guy, is, big fan of his channel in general. But I watched his channel. He's kind of inspired me to do YouTube when I started. So he did a bunch of like technical videos, so like hour-long videos on like Raspberry Pi and like A plus I think, or A plus. Anyways, he does all these technical videos for IT, and then he kind of segued over into doing like career questions. So he's done stuff like that, like how do you get your first IT gig without a college degree, for example, or without experience. And then he's gone on to these ranting videos recently, and he likes to rant and rave, and that's completely fine. That's not going to be somewhat the style of this channel. But I want that format he has. Like it's a long form video, so these are going to be long form videos of me just talking to you guys about things in the industry. I might bring in frustrations from the industry because I want people to see A, my perspective, but B, I want to show you what it's like to actually work in quantitative finance. I think a lot of people give you lots of like fluffy, shiny, pretty things to like chase after, like, oh, lots of money, and it's rigorous and it's exciting. And at the end of the day, you don't see the bad parts of the job, like, I don't know, people not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then you having to argue with people and having like low points in your career and frustrations and things aren't just working out. These are things that are harder to talk about on podcasts, on YouTube. Why? Well, because one, they don't sell a lot of viewership. So that brings me to another point here on YouTube. A lot of people have been pointing out like, oh, Dimitri, these videos don't do a lot of views. Maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. This channel essentially is just me doing me. Like I don't really care about the views. I don't care about the money. If I wanted to get tons of views, I could make really tacky videos. And I'm going to make probably one of these Talking Tuesdays about why I hate the finance industry that's online. But a lot of it comes down to these videos where it's like, how to make $1,000,000 out of $10 and like, you can be a millionaire too. And like, I don't know, they're too tacky. They're too terrible. When I search finance online, it just like kills my soul on the ridiculousness of what's being peddled out there that's not really finance. But anyways, I'm going to be focusing more on what I want to do. And so I've been doing our videos. And as I pointed out to somebody here, right, the views on our videos are really low. But for some reason, my subscriber counts spike when I do our videos. And so for me, that's telling me I have people out there, okay, that want to learn how to do R. And because of that, I'm going to keep making these videos. I don't care if I make like 10 cents off of a video over a year. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm trying to help you guys out. I enjoy R. I'm going to be doing R. So that's what we're going to do on some of these videos. But back kind of the Talking Tuesday thing here, they're just going to be like this, right? I've just been rambling on for minutes. We're kind of talking about different topics. Again, my thought process is much different than most people. It's not very organized, but I like to bounce around and talk about different topics and different things that kind of link together. So we're going to be doing that here on Talking Tuesday. That's just kind of a base intro on what Talking Tuesday is, what it's going to be. Again, it's going to come out randomly. I'm going to just shoot these when I feel like it, and then I'm going to post them whenever I want, but they will be on Tuesdays. I will continue to do the weekly videos on Sundays, so please subscribe, hit the little bell button, because if you do not hit the bell button, YouTube deems that it's smarter than you, and so therefore they won't tell you when videos come out, unless for some reason and that video gets a lot of views, then they recommend it to more people. That'll be a whole nother Talking Tuesday on the terrible nature of these recommendation algorithms that are being used across the industry of technology. But we're going to dive in here to a year in review. So the second topic of today's Talking Tuesday is just looking at the year of the channel and what kind of we've done as a group here. So everybody included, right? You guys help push me and make videos and topics and make recommendations. So of course I'm looking here at YouTube stats and it says data is temporarily unavailable from December 2018 to November 2019. So I don't really have any data to look at, but I did pull up my phone and look at the little screenshots I do when I hit like mile markers. We were around 3,000 or 4,000 people when I started at the beginning of 2019. So I want to look at the entire year. Right now, I have, let's see. Let's go to my channel. I believe I have like 7,990 subscribers. So 10 subscribers is all I'm going to need to break the 8,000 mark. And we're sitting here, when I shot this video here, today's Sunday, the 29th of December, 2019. So, I have 7,936 subscribers. We're going to be close, okay? It's going to be close to breaking 8,000, but I'm just going to say we're going to hit 8,000. But as a channel, going from even 4,000 to 8,000, so doubling in a year, for me, that's crazy, okay? I never thought this channel would be as big as it is. I started this more or less at the beginning of my banking career, which is like halfway through my total career. And I thought this would be something where I would do like career videos. I'd make how to interview videos. And then a bunch of students would like say, hey, thanks for making these videos. And I'd get a few hundred views. And then it would kind of grow, but it would never get like huge. A lot of the videos we do here are really niche topics. So do I fit in quant finance was one of the most popular videos this year. For me, it's just something I think about. It's just something I talk about like mentally, and I talk about with colleagues, for example, just going through these processes of do you fit in the industry? You're always going to have thoughts in your mind, no matter what job you do. I can promise you this. You'll think about, should I even be where I'm at, right? Is this the job for me? Am I at the right company? Is this the right career for me? And it goes in cycles. I've had highs where it's like, I don't think about this at all. And I'm like essentially on cloud 9. I'm just cruising. I'm writing papers. I'm doing research. I'm busy at work. I'm making YouTube videos. Like everything's clicking for me. And viewership, for example, might be something that's going up. So I'm like, I'm super excited. The channel's growing. I'm making good progress at work. And so I don't really think about it. And then there are times where everything seems like it's going well, but you're not really feeling it. Okay. And there are also times when you know it's going terrible and you feel terrible, right? Just kind of these three states. But you'll start questioning, like, should I be here? Where am I going? What am I doing? And these types of things I want to bring up more in the video series. I want to talk about them a little bit more. And that brings me to the point that I have to be super, super careful on what I say on Talking Tuesdays, on what I say on this channel in general. So for a lot of you know, right, my goal is to be an executive. I'd love to be a CEO. CRO would be all right too. It's definitely something I'd like to hit. I would feel very accomplished hitting a CRO position. But I want to be a CEO and I want to change the way the industry works. I want to improve things. I want to make it better. I think we're kind of stuck in a rut and there's not enough kind of, new ideas and new advancements, and trying to get to that point is challenging. But at the same time, right, these videos are permanent. So when I make a video and I state something on here, it's there forever essentially. And so people can come back and say, well, Dimitri, we think you'd be a great fit for X, Y, and Z. However, there was this one time someone saw that you said X, Y, and Z and it wouldn't fit real well with our image and our branding and our company and all that. So for me, I have to be careful on kind of, right, being careful not to say the wrong thing so that I don't offend too many people. But also I want to kind of shed light on things that you should be thinking about, things that aren't talked about more or less in public or in the industry or even in school, for example. But trying to like open your horizons, have people think about things, and have those challenging conversations. It's one of the reasons Talking Tuesdays I'm hoping will be more popular, because some of the best conversations I've had have been me with somebody else on the other side of the table having coffee and just talking about things. And usually I'm pretty, I guess, uncensored when I do these, because I can say things and I feel like I'm open, but the thing is I'm not being recorded, so it's not going to be broadcasted. And then usually the other person on the other end can say, oh, I'm kind of taken back. Like, what do you mean? And then I can clarify, and we can get to an understanding and an explanation, and we can all move on. But we all benefit from these conversations. YouTube is very different in that sense, that I can say something. I can have one person who's vastly offended and is upset, but they don't really understand and they're not really open to a conversation. So kind of makes it a struggle to make videos sometimes. But at the same time, I know a lot of you are benefiting, and so I will try to stay, I guess, as honest and truthful as possible, while walking that line of being politically correct somewhat. And I think one of the reasons this is challenging and why people don't talk about this a lot is there are a lot of topics where you have to do something. For example, let's say you have a budget cut. So when I worked, not in banking, when I worked at a smaller company, when you have budget cuts and you have to go through a list of people and say, we need to cut this many people, right? It's a challenging thing to do, and you can't really talk about these things with people that aren't in senior management, haven't been in the same position, because people start getting their feelings hurt, and then they start basically accusing corporations of being horrible corporations, and doing this and that, and you're a terrible person, you're an executive, like it's all about greed and corporations are bad, and everyone kind of dogpiles on you, but they're not the ones in that position where it's like, maybe the market shifted and your product's no longer popular. Maybe it's very cyclical. There are different things to consider and you're losing money. Sometimes it's out of your control. In either way, regardless if it's in your control or not, you still have to cut budgets a lot of times. And so letting people go is a challenging thing to do, because you have to go through and look at everyone's performance. You have to figure out who's going to, help the company keep going, and then you have value. So maybe somebody has a massive paycheck, and if we let them go, we could save a lot of money and save 3 jobs. But at the same time, if they're the one that's carrying the team, then you can't let them go, right? These are challenging things that I would like to talk about more in these videos. But at the same time, I don't want it to be essentially like a dog pile where everybody's upset and like people are getting their feelings hurt, and it's just making it more challenging, because a lot of those people aren't going to be able to put themselves in the shoes of other people at different levels in corporations or different experiences. And that leads me to briefly mention that somebody asked me to talk about my career somewhat. So I'm going to talk about that in an actual video, not a Talking Tuesday, I don't think. And then I'm also going to talk about financials. So somebody asked about this, right? I just paid off all of my student loans. My wife and I had $160,000 in debt. I paid it off in essentially 5 years. Talking about managing my personal financials. Again, these aren't get rich quick schemes, but I'll talk about it because I look at it differently, I think, than most people, given my risk background, given my finance background, and then given my mathematics background. I just do things differently. So we'll talk about that in another video as well. And this kind of leads to the final wrap up here on this Talking Tuesday. And that's going to be what I was going to make a video on, but then I thought about it and I shot the video and it didn't come out real well. And I'm just having a hard time putting it all together, so I'm just going to do it now, which is going to be, what is Fancy Quant? So that's kind of the branding of the channel here. Right, we have the logo, which is FQ, which is like you're a function of Quant, so you're part of Quant, which is part of the branding, but realistically it stands for Fancy Quant. So the whole reason this branding started, the whole reason this channel exists, is essentially, I always feel like when I went through the, applied economics and the financial engineering programs and took all the classes, there's really no job placement for STEM degrees, okay? So let me reiterate that here. You can find jobs, but it's really up to you to do it. A lot of universities aren't going to spend the time to do this, okay? Now you can get a business degree, and essentially they will help place you because that's what business degrees are for, but STEM degrees don't really do that, okay? So you have this balancing act here. You have the two halves. Part of what I see too so I see both sides of it somewhat, right? I have a business background and I have a quantitative background. And so trying to put the two halves together is extremely difficult. And that's where the fancy part represents more like I don't even want to call it the business part, but it's more like the finance and business part. And then the quant part is more of the STEM part. But fancy really represents like the personal skills, the communication, the soft skills, and then the quant part represents really the quantitative skills, the math, the stats, the computer programming. And so the branding and the channel here, from going to school, I have seen people that were super, super quantitative, really bright, just brilliant. I think it'd be great to hire them to do a lot of what we do. But at the same time, they lacked so many, soft skills that it would make your corporation look terrible. It would make your team look terrible. And they just lacked the basic 101s. A lot of this comes down to cultural differences, which is very challenging to learn. So for those of you that don't know, most people in quantitative finance do not come from the United States. So not even like second generations, for example. Most people in quantitative finance are actually born in another country. They come to the United States, they get a graduate degree, so master's or PhD, and then they go into quantitative finance. And so part of the hurdle for them is trying to get over that cultural divide, like what is culturally acceptable here versus in your home country. And so part of this channel is trying to address that. So just to give a few stories here and a few anecdotes of what it's like. One of the professors I had, he said the hardest part was trying to explain to people from other countries that in the US, that smell, for example, is a big deal breaker for job interviews. So what he's meaning by this is he's having to explain, like, you have to shower every day and you have to brush your teeth every day. And people in the US that are watching this will laugh and say, well, of course, like, whatever, that's not acceptable, and like, whatever, you should be doing this every day. But it's not culturally the same in other countries. This isn't a common thing. I mean, even between the United States and many European countries, dental hygiene is completely different. What we expect versus what other countries expect is different. Showering is that other piece, right? Showering, wearing deodorant. In the United States, these are things that are very common. This is kind of our rule that you must follow. Whereas in other countries, right, it might be every couple days. And so, right, there's just differences, and that will actually make or break interviews. And so this professor talked to me and said, Dimitri, it's extremely hard to help students because no professor wants to come up to a student and sit them down and say, like, hey, you need to brush your teeth before you go to the interview, or make sure you shower before you go to the interview. It's just not nice to say, but at the same time, right, you're not helping these students out if you can't convey the cultural differences and explain why, in the US, this is the norm. Doing this will help you get a job. The other couple things here, so just kind of fun stories, was I went to a business recruiting kind of thing. I think it was for like Bain & Company, one of the big consulting firms. Anyways, MBA program at Michigan, Ross Business School hosted it. And it's an entire like small auditorium just packed full of MBA students. So they're all in, suits and ties and like nice dresses, and everyone's professional and they're ready to go. And they absolutely hated the fact that financial engineers or data science or other people would come to these kind of recruiting things. So they'd actually ban us from coming, which I'm not a fan of. But I understand somewhat because we're all sitting down in this room and we're like getting going, and this guy stands up and he's pumped. He said, I'm from Ross. I graduated in this year. I'm from, whatever consulting firm that was there. And we're here to do X, Y, and Z. And we're going to recruit so many people. And let me tell you why our company is amazing and you want to work here. Okay. So they're up there and they're going through it. And all of a sudden the door just like busts open. And it's like the rattly door, with like the bar that goes across it. So somebody hits the bar and they come in. And it's this kid on a little Razor scooter with a backpack and like jeans on and like a t-shirt, so kind of like I'm dressed today, and they just bust in there with all their crap, and it's like we're right in the middle of the presentation. It just goes dead silent. Okay, kid gets in, comes to the front row, finds a seat, throws his scooter down, takes off his backpack, and it's like noisy, and everyone's waning, right? We're all waning, and he sits down, and so then the speaker's like waning, and the guy is done. Okay, he sits down. All right. And then he goes back on to, this is what our company did for the last year. We hired this many people. These are some of the benefits, and these are some of our top clients. And this is why, we're looking for, people like you, strategy and business and finance and accounting, and you can fit in. And all of a sudden, right, the kid gets up and he's like putting his backpack back on, his jacket, and he's grabbing his scooter. So it stops again, and they're waiting for this kid as he's like grabbing all of his junk, and he's just going back out the door. Okay. this is an example of what Fancy Quant's trying to prevent, okay? We want to be able to leverage the finance side, the communication side, and we want to be able to leverage, right, the quantitative side. And I believe this student I saw before, I think they were probably like a stats major, or like a computer science major, maybe data science, but they just lacked the understanding of what was acceptable. Like for business schools, they teach you must be 5-10 minutes early to every meeting. This kid didn't know that. I don't know where he got the invite to come to the recruiting event, but it made him look terrible. It makes the business school there look terrible. And so the business school gets upset and they ban all these other programs from coming. But Fancy Quant as a brand is trying to bridge that gap. Like I want to take students like that. I want to sit them down. I want to explain it to them and say, these are the rules and guidelines that you have to follow to be able to participate in these realms. If you want to work on, this business side, you need to do this. And again, there are other stories I could go on about for hours. There are some where I've had business students who just don't understand conceptually. So I'll give a quick story on the other side of this as well. There was a meet and greet, and it was essentially at the engineering career fair at school. And this business student comes up and they're talking to a recruiter and they're telling them, I'm so-and-so, this is my resume, I'm from the business school, I want to get into your industry and do X, Y, and Z. And the recruiter's nicely trying to say thanks for coming, we'll take a look at your resume. And then the business student's trying to interject and be like, well, I'm really great and this is why. And they're like, that's fine, but we're really hiring, computer science majors because I need somebody to do X, Y, and Z. And then the business students, well, no, I've taken a Python class. And they start trying to brag and show that they're really good. You can tell the recruiter's trying to be nice and accept that, okay, thank you, we'll review it. Please go away. I don't want to have to explain to you that you're lacking years of computer science training. It's more than just learning to program. And so that's kind of the opposite example story here. But trying to blend the two together, I think is hard. It's challenging. To be very quantitative and competitive in quantitative finance, for example, it takes a lot of time and effort doing quantitative studies. And a lot of times we neglect the fancy side, the soft communication skills, presenting, for example, putting PowerPoints together, things that I would view that are really boring and not fun. But at the end of the day, to be competitive and to be able to climb the ranks in quantitative finance as a whole, we really do need to be able to bridge that gap and kind of bring the two halves together. So this channel in general, that's what we're focusing on here. That's what we're trying to do. Again, I'm trying to give you guys the perspective because I don't want people to be ignorant, which I see a lot of in the industry and a lot of in academia, especially from universities, for example. They just don't understand a lot of times what we do in the industry, the skills we need, soft skills, hard skills, right? Trying to put all that together. So this channel is trying to do that in a nutshell, right? We're trying to train you on soft skills and hard skills. A lot of the channel focuses around the hard skill side, right? Because it's easier for me to teach you math because it's logic and it has structures and steps. We're going to try to do more of the soft skills side. So I'm going to try to figure out examples for this. I'm not quite sure how to do it, but we're going to try to do it. We're going to try to put it together and make things more kind of cohesive so you can figure out how to get through it. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, somebody asked about me talking through my career. So I'm going to do this somewhat. I will try to talk about the different aspects, the different pieces, the components, talking about kind of getting ahead. However, again, I have to be super careful because when I get closer to my current employer and past employers that are within the last 5 years, I don't want to cross the line into either sharing stuff that I shouldn't share or giving you a story and then you taking an entire perspective on a company when that's not what it's meant to be. It's meant to look at how to deal with different people and coping kind of strategies to get through different groups and learning to be team players. But that's kind of what Fancy Quant is as a brand. It's supposed to bring the two halves together. It's supposed to train you guys. It's supposed to give you an industry perspective like Talking Tuesdays that you won't get from other people, you won't get from other sources. And just kind of to wrap this whole video up and explain part of the Fancy Quant part, I don't think a lot of people realize that most quants don't want to make videos, okay? Most quants don't want to be in the public. Most quants don't want anything to do with what I do here on this channel, and the reason being is because right? You spend so much time focusing on the quantitative side, you're really good at your job, right? They don't want to deal with the comments. They don't want to deal with the complaints. They don't want to have to deal with posting a video every Sunday because they actually love doing quantitative finance. And I understand that. I get it, right? I enjoy it. I love it. And so most of us don't do these videos. It's why you don't find a lot of channels on quantitative finance because A, I can make a lot more money doing my actual job or improving myself, which is interesting and exciting. And on top of that, right, I can use my other time for downtime for doing me. But most quants aren't outgoing, super spoken, motivated people that want to do these public displays, right? They're excited, they're motivated, but they want to do quantitative side. So I hope you guys kind of take that into consideration when you watch the videos as well. I'm trying to understand that I'm not giving you essentially the stereotype, but I'm trying to show you what it's like from my eyes and my perspective. So anyways, thanks for tuning in here to the first Talking Tuesday. If you've made it this far, thumbs up to you and thank you for that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe below, hit the bell button, share the video on other platforms if you'd like. It does help my viewership. It does help continue to make videos for me because I get more stats, motivates me. But anyways, thanks guys, and as always, until next time.